This podcast is brought to you in part by VIP Marketing and Advertising.
Welcome back to another episode of Your Daily Development, and we have none other on the line with us than Mr. Jason Blumer. Last week's episode was so hot, we had to do a part 2 for you. So listen close. This is Your Daily Development.
Welcome to Your Daily Development with your host, Eric Elliott.
You're running away from the future, man. You gotta get caught up in the past. I am wearing the same clothes, Jason. I don't know about you, but this is going to be episode 2 for the folks who are under a rock. Jason, please tell these folks exactly who you are and what you do.
Very cool. Yes, I'm wearing the same clothes too. So we just recorded episode 1. So I lead Blumer CPAs, which is a virtual CPA firm. We're really a growth consultancy firm where we'll still do the back office of the accounting, tax, payroll, technology support, and things like that. But we consult with agency owners. We coach with them. We help them adjust their business models and become stronger leaders in our firm. So we have a team of about 9. And we operate with that team virtually, and we serve as a specific niche, creative design, marketing, and ad agencies all over the U.S. And I've been doing this for about 14 years.
Jason, that's some good stuff, man. I want to jump right in because the last episode we talked about pricing a great deal, and I think that's very helpful to a lot of listeners out there, regardless of what your business is. But just in researching Jason, Jason's not just an accountant, but he's also a coach. And Jason, if you could explain that to me, what coaching is from your perspective to a business.
Yeah, so a lot of times when we pitch coaching, it is really a misunderstood service. It's more like a business psychologist, really. So a coach, a trained coach or a skilled coach, and I've just been doing it for many years, really helps an agency owner think more deeply about their purposes and their processes. And so as a coach, we dive deeply into the risks you should be taking, and then we can hit any aspect of the business related to growth. It could be hiring, firing, the client base, pricing, different business models, trying to create new levels of management and leadership, how to train leaders and things like that. So we find that these agency owners rarely stop to think about, why do I run my business in the way that I run it? And a coach is that trusted, intimate person that you've given the right to ask those hard questions of. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit different than consulting. Consulting, we also do that sometimes. And that's where we're trying to create expert guidance and opinions for people to employ in their company. But a coach is really their private counseling sessions to help the owner work through some of the fears and the struggles they're having. And a coach can often see in major ways, they can see some big areas that the owner is struggling to grow in. And so if there's a trusted relationship, they can point those out. They can ask those hard questions. And so before we get started, with people, when we coach, we just have them do a quick coaching assessment so we can learn more about what they think about coaching, a personality profile. And then the first session, typically we're trying to find out, where are you going? Because coaching is basically trying to find out, where are you going? Where are you now? And what is the process to get from point A to point B? And then a coach always brings some level of accountability in that to follow up. What date are you doing that? How are you doing it? When are you going to do it? And there's a little bit of pressing that the coach kind of does on that agency owner and forces them to put some traction or execution to some of their growth visions. A coach is not a friend. They're not a mentor. A mentor is typically an older person that just gives sage advice. They're definitely not friends. We can't be friends with the people we coach. Mm-hmm. But they are almost like a counselor, basically.
Wow. Good point. I mean, one of the questions I wanted to ask you when it came into coaching, do you find that pleasantries can get in the way? Like from your end, do you worry about being too nice to a client or someone else that you have to coach?
I think we can be nice because we do really love our clients. We mm-hmm. can be nice. But we do often see that coaching relationships veer into places that are unhealthy. That can be common. A lot of times coaching is something you do for a period of time, but you don't do it forever. Unless there's some kind of strategic initiative that some fast-growing company always needs help working through, then a coach could be with you for a long period of time. But for the normal small business owner, a coach can really kickstart some growth, help you to start to think. But not a lot, but there are times when small business agency owners could get too reliant on their coach. They want to talk about things that are not really things, worth talking about. So, for example, I'm not skilled at dealing with some personal struggles that some people may face, like alcoholism or something like that. Or if there's a marriage issue that's affecting an agency owner, those are things I can't deal with, but they do bleed over sometimes. So we have to go, that's something I'm not able to deal with you on because we're focused on the growth of your business. So it doesn't happen often because we do try to tell our clients exactly what coaching is going to be like. We have a 4-page document we have them read so they can understand what coaching is about. So it doesn't normally get in the way, but it can when there's too much heavy reliance on the coach for things that a coach shouldn't be helping with. Then we have to kind of start adjusting the relationship or cut it off.
Or just say time out, just like normal coaches do. Call a timeout.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yep, that's right.
Earlier you talked about the purposes and processes and risk and growth. Now, how important is it for agencies, because you are a business, and sometimes your business can fluctuate. How important is it for them to set up budgets or KPIs for their businesses, key performance indicators, so they know, hey, this is where we need to be? Do you help them with that? And also, how important is that, Jason? Yeah,
we definitely help them with that. One thing we do like people to know is that, financial reporting with KPIs or metrics, we like to, issue some labor metrics and some benchmarking metrics for some of our clients that opt into some of those options, or budgets. We like to remind them that they're just tools. So they're not going to make you do anything. They're not going to create money. They just are tools to give you awareness. They give you awareness. So we've actually done some of that stuff with them. Even things like us meeting, like our CPAs that will meet with a client on a monthly basis to go over their financials. That also is just a tool to help you become aware of where you stand as an agency. But the agency owner still has to, enact some of those things. They have to act on the information they're being given. So we would say it's extremely important to have those pieces of information, but they're not magical things. Like great things aren't going to happen just because you have budgets. And so we see a lot of agencies commit huge amounts of details to create very detailed accounting reporting, huge amounts of details to manage budgets that flow forward. They spend so much time building and tracking these things. They're never stepping back to a 30,000-foot view and go, where does our company look broken based upon what our financials are saying? And what should we go do differently now? What new risks should we take? Or what investments should we make? Or who's the wrong team member? Where are the wrong clients that we're serving?
Wow.
And so they sometimes they don't step back and make the hard decisions and assessments that the numbers are just supposed to give you a tool to help you make those bigger, better decisions.
Well, the numbers do tell a story, and I think sometimes we actually get lost in the numbers. How can they make smarter decisions and with things like hiring, location? When do they know this is the right time for me to hire someone, or when is it time for me to fire someone?
Wow, that does depend on each agency owner. And what it always depends on is where you're going. So when anybody asks, how do you make some of those growth decisions? We always say, it depends. Tell me where you're going. And some may say, well, I want to stay the same size. Well, then I'm like, okay, well, then maybe an investment in some kind of office building is not the thing you should do. Or I want to double next year. Well, then that changes the decisions we make based upon, how you spend money on your office area. So it just always depends where is an agency trying to get to, and a lot of agencies don't know. So that's what coaching does. It tries to vet out where are we all headed, and let's make sure we're all walking towards that point, because there's so many detailed things that distract us, right? Like one very distracting thing is if you have a wrong team member that really is not rowing in the same direction with the rest of your team.
Right.
And if you struggle with that, you're going to have to stop and really deal with those issues, and it's going to take you a long time. And so it'll distract you and make you think this is hard or it's not right, when really you may be walking in the right direction towards your end point of growth. But those details sometimes confuse you. So I think one thing to make those hiring and those decisions about money that you would invest in or people that you invest in, I think you have to be looking at your numbers on a regular basis. And we like agencies to look at more summarized information. So instead of showing you a full set of financial statements on your profit and loss statement, we want to summarize that into something we call an agency metric spreadsheet and show you how it compares with other goal type percentages that most agencies should be targeting. And then we just want to know, how are you doing? And then feed some labor metrics to you, make sure you're getting the right leverage on your labor. That is, you're producing the right gross profit from your labor spend. And when we issue summarized financial information, that really there's not much information on that spreadsheet that we display. It basically highlights the issues. It goes, bam, now that we've squished a 30-line set of financial statements down into a 7-line financial statement, now you can start to see the problems kind of squish out. You can start to see what's going on. And now we see the big problem here, and that's what you go focus on.
Wow, the money is the numbers. I ran across an interesting quote from the world famous Bob Marley, and it said, "Money is numbers."
Come on.
It says, "Money is numbers, and numbers never end. If it takes money to be happy, your search for happiness will never end." Wow. That's powerful.
That's right.
What we're going to do is we're going to go pay some bills real quick, and we're going to come right back. So stay tuned.
You don't need a marketing agency. You do deserve very important placement. VIP Marketing and Advertising is a cutting-edge strategic digital, creative, media, and marketing partner that provides services for businesses of all sizes. To stay up to date on the latest marketing news, subscribe for email updates at veryimportantplacement.com.
Jason, let's talk about being compliant with, state and local taxes, federal taxes. This is something that your firm does as well. So it's not like you only do it for the business, because a lot of business owners are tied. Their personal financials are tied to the business, and your firm helps out with that as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we want to, what we've committed to is we want to contract with businesses only. So we just want to work with agencies. So we don't contract with any individuals, but we always do the individual owners' tax returns as well. Because like you said, Eric, they're intimately tied, and a lot of small business agencies, the profit just flows out of that business into the personal owner's tax return, as you know.
So for a lot of folks that think that, they don't take their numbers seriously, Jason, what kind of things can happen to their business that you've seen from folks who don't listen to the coaching or that don't have a good back office? What happens to the business then? Because that's the scary side of the business that every business owner should pay attention to.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the most common things that happens is the business owner doesn't really know where they're going or where they're headed. And a lot of times when they first talk to us, they're very confused. They're like, this is just really hard. I don't know why it's hard. I can't pinpoint. Is it this team issue? Is it my pricing? Is it my business model? Is it my sales process? There's just so much they don't know. There's so many confusing parts, to what they're doing. So if they're not looking at these regular financial statements and minding, their back office, it just gets confusing. And then what happens when they don't know what's going on? Typically the owner is, because the owners, they have all the risk. So they're the ones working late at night, working all weekend. And so the owner becomes overwhelmed and burdened, and they're picking up the slack when things are dropping. A lot of times, small businesses don't really commit to creating solid processes, which are really hard to do. It takes a lot of time to create those things. It's really, really hard. So what happens is a lot of times that agency owner just ends up being overwhelmed because they're just picking up the slack of all the things that are dropping. And what hurts even more is they don't really know what is the cause of this thing. And so coaching a lot of times vets out those top 3 issues, and we start working on the things that are going to create a healthier business.
Wow, that's right.
For the company and the owner.
That's right. Having processes in place. If you're managing your people, something's wrong with your processes. If you're managing your processes, something's wrong with your people. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. That's kind of cool.
So, Jason, we're getting close to the end here, but I want to ask you this. Being a virtual accountant like you are, there's no drawbacks to that. I mean, if any business owner thinks about it now, their accountant that they may have within their city or a few miles away, they're virtual as well, So
that's right, yeah.
So how is that being a virtual accountant? I mean, is there any limitations to it at all?
Well, there's one thing about a virtual company is that everything is hidden. It's all hidden. So there's nothing that's not hidden unless you unhide it. And that basically means your team really is in their house doing things. They're doing things, and you don't know what they're doing. Whereas in an office, you don't realize this. I mean, we went from an office to being virtual. We became virtual about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a huge difference. In an office, you kind of just glance around and you see what's happening. You know what's happening. You kind of know the projects people might be working on. But in an environment where everything's virtual, you become very blind. And so what you have to do is build a lot of processes around, revealing these things, helping these things to be known. And it's very different. And what we did is we made a lot of assumptions that our in-office processes would work in a virtual environment. And they don't at all. We realized, when we had an office that if a client would come pick up their tax return, they would be doing 3 and 4 things in one meeting, 3 or 4 steps to a process. And when we tried to do that virtually, we would mess things up and not, forget to tell the client something. So we had to map out that the time that client came and sat down in front of us in an office was actually a 4-step process. And here's the priority order and that they have to go in. And so we had to then start guiding the client through those processes. So, and virtual brings other benefits, right? You can serve anybody anywhere. You can find team members anywhere. But it also brings a blindness that you have to accommodate for by really having some very overt processes built, tracking systems, workflow systems. You have to have a project manager that's really on top of this work, that's seeing the flow of work, because you have to keep your eye on the flow of all the work for the client so you can take care of them. So just the invisibility is probably the hardest thing that you're always trying to accommodate for.
Yeah, I do think that also being virtual for you guys has its benefits as far as documentation, because when you are virtual, a lot of things are done online and there's always some documentation there. Jason, I want to thank you again. This has been another great episode. I want to thank you for your time, Jason. If you could, please tell these folks what the name of your podcast is, how they can find you, your website address. Give them all the information you can about Blumer CPAs right now.
Yeah. So the best way to find us is to go to blumercpas.com. And that's basically, not a lot of people can spell our name, but it's BLUMER CPAS.com, BLUMER CPAS.com. You can also find that same handle on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to hear our podcast, it's at businessology.biz, which is the word business, BUSINESS, and then OLOGY, ology.biz. You can find us there. We have 4 years of history on that podcast there, where we interview agency owners. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter, Jason M. Blumer. And a lot of my content gets posted at Jason M. Blumer. Of course, you can hook up with me on LinkedIn too if you want. So I'm there.
Man, he's everywhere, man, and that's some good stuff, Jason. I want to tell our listeners, thank you to our listeners. I want to thank you for the growth, and also thank you for your time again, Jason. And to our listeners, please don't forget to rate us. 1 star is cool, but we love 5 stars around here. And Don't forget to log on to veryimportantplacement.com. Sign up for our marketing minutes that are released every Monday morning. And this podcast is going to be released on Wednesday. We have a lot of great stuff to look forward to. Jason Blumer from Blumer CPAs, thank you again for your time. It was great, my man.
Awesome. Eric, thanks for having me on your show. You're doing some good stuff, buddy.
Thank you, man. This has been your daily development.
Copyright 2017 VIP Marketing and Advertising. Produced by Craft Creative.
When all eyes are on you, make it count. From audio to video to graphic design and more, Craft Creative can do it all. We don't make commercials, we craft creative. See what we can do for you at wecraftcreative.com.